Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to all of you joining us online today. Welcome to this media briefing about the network of the future and the new ocean network being introduced by Maersk and Hapag-Lloyd through the Gemini Corporation. With me here in the studio today, I'm joined by Johan Sigsgaard, who is heading Maersk's ocean business, and also Lars Mikael Jensen, who is the head of the APM Terminals Hubs. Welcome to both of you.
Thank you.
Just to get us started here, we're only a few days away from the launch of this new network on February 1st. How is it to be in your shoes today?
I mean, the last 12 months has been a massive preparation task for our teams and for Hapag-Lloyd. So now we are there, and so I'm really just excited to see this new network coming live.
How about you in the terminals?
Well, I can't wait to get started. Johan talks about 12 months. I mean, this has been part of my life on and off for the last 5 years. So we're all excited. We planned a long time with the terminals, and when I speak to the terminals in my regular contacts with them, they say, just bring it on, we're ready.
Well, thank you for setting that scene. To all of you, we'll spend the next 45 minutes diving deeper into all the details of the planning, why it was decided to redesign the network and so forth. And then we'll, of course, we'll see this through the APM terminals and the Maersk perspective. And then we'll, after the introduction, we'll turn to you guys and have the questions. I will get to how that works practically later, so stay tuned for that. But first of all, let's turn to the two gentlemen and have the introduction about this new network. Just to get us started, as you said, Lars Mikael, we'll have to go back a few years before to explain what has happened here. What was it that made you decide that Maersk needed to redesign its ocean network, Johan?
Yeah, so the reason why we have to go back a few years is that if you look at the network we are sailing today, it's basically the network that was introduced 10 years ago when we joined the 2M Alliance, and we, together with all of the other players in the industry, had to phase in this next size ships with the big sizes that we have today. So at that time, we had these big ships coming in, and all of our focus was on how to get them on the network and basically to bring down the unit cost that came from those. You can definitely argue that has been successful from a unit cost perspective. What we have also seen over the course of the last 10 years is that operating these extremely large ships on this type of network has added a lot of pressure on the ports. And together with the volatility that we have seen in the world impacting us also in the last 5 years, reliability has suffered. So it's been very hard for us to sail those large ships on this network with the proper reliability.
And turning to the ports, how have you experienced the issue that you wanted to solve from a terminal operator perspective?
I mean, same as Johan is talking about, you can say the congestions in ports impacting the schedule reliability and so on. It also has a ripple effect on the next ports. So if there is delay in one port, then the likelihood of actually coming into the next terminal as per the plans is lower. And if there's one thing that terminals they need that regularity and that predictability. Get the ships, particularly in a hub, to get the ships in the right sequence, then you can operate. So it was increasingly challenging, because when ships didn't come as planned, then the flow of containers didn't go as planned. Then all of a sudden there were a lot of boxes at the terminal, and that slowed down the productivity, and that adds to the congestion. So it's kind of a vicious circle. So it's about breaking that vicious circle, I would say.
And together with Hapag-Lloyd, you have set the ambition to reach a reliability of about above 90% once the network is fully phased in. Why do you think that's so important to the customers?
So reliability is certainly not a new thing in the dialogue we have with our customers, and ultimately it's around getting their containers there on time, so they can reduce the cost associated to delays, which could sit in the form of buffer stock or emergency transportation, that more expensive mode. So that's what in for the customers. Today, if we look at the SeaIntel report that has just come out again for the months of last year, we are simply put in a position where only 1 out of 2 containers, on ships and thereby also containers, arriving on time. So we have set this ambition of 90%, which is a very big difference from where we have today. But if you look at other industries, it's not an unreasonable expectation to have from our customers that this is the level that we need to get to. And that's basically the level that we believe it will take in order for them to remove some of the cost that is right now associated with ships arriving on delayed.
Thank you both for setting that scene. And with that, let's move to the next chapter, namely the solutions that you then came up with. Let's have a brief look at how it looks right here.
Welcome to the network of the future with Maersk and Hapag-Lloyd. We're redesigning the modern ocean network with the ambition to deliver more than 90% service reliability, speed through efficiency, and the same global geographical reach you enjoy today. Here's how it works. Instead of loading your cargo on a mainliner at origin, we'll load it onto a shuttle that sails directly to a port within a transshipment hub. Your containers are quickly and efficiently transferred from shuttle to a mainliner, which departs directly for Europe, cutting the number of stops down from 7 to 3. The new Agile network works on 3 pillars. 1. Dedicated shuttles enabling unmatched agility and the ability to isolate a disrupted port. 2. Upgraded hubs located like pearls on a string, linking shuttles to mainliners. And 3. Leaner mainline loops calling on fewer ports, leveraging the advantages of the shuttles and hubs.
And with that introduction, let's now dive deeper into the new setup and how it's different from how ocean networks have been designed so far. Let me start with you, Johan Sigsgaard. In your opinion, what are the big differentiators about this new network? And I can mention we have the visualization if you need it.
Yeah, I think we should bring up the visualization that was also briefly there in the video, which allows me to address the first differentiator, which is quite different, which is the number of stops on the mainliner loops. So on this example here, we have a shipment between North China and Germany. And in a traditional loop in between Asia and Europe, you have these 14 to 15 stops. And what that means for a container that needs to travel from North China to Bremerhaven in this example is that it actually has to stop 7 times on the way. And if you look at the bottom, which is the alternative routing, which is we're introducing with the new network, instead of having all those stops, we are introducing a direct dedicated shuttle from North China that then goes to our main connection point in Asia, which is in Tanjung Pelepas, and they are connecting to the main mother line going into Germany. And that means that in this case, the container is only having 3 stops on the way as opposed to these 7. And the reason why this is such a differentiator is that when we look at it, the thing that is the biggest correlating factor to delays is actually the number of stops. So what we see today is that actually quite often a weather problem in North China tends to actually also make you come late into your call down in South China, and then coming late they will just put you further delays on top. So basically you have this compounded effect of the delays when you have all these stops. So we see a clear difference in that the loops we have with fewer port calls, they are more reliable, and therefore this is a big change. So that's the first difference. The second difference is on the shuttles. And I know many are asking, what's the difference here to a feeder, which is normally what this is referred to. And I just wanted to point to a few things. First of all, this is a quite large ship that will run these shuttles. We see them as extensions of the mother vessel network, and they will serve in a true point-to-point fashion. So they will be dedicated to a specific market. In the example here is the North China market. The second thing is that it's not abnormal that in the current network feeders, they don't have the same priority and the same focus in the hubs. These shuttles will come in with the exact same priority, the exact same processes and operation rigor as we have on the mother vessels. So they are really an extension, but they are sort of very dedicated to a specific market. And then lastly, of course, the hubs is a big differentiator for us, where together with APMT, we have really developed a strategic location and capabilities in these hubs to connect the flows between the different services.
And that naturally brings me to you, Lars Mikael Jensen. Can you explain a little bit more about these hubs and how have you chosen exactly these hubs?
I mean, we've chosen the hubs because of their strategic locations. We talk a lot about they from Asia to Europe. They are like pearls on a string, really, on the main highway from Asia to Europe. That is one thing. So you can say that it is hubs that we have. We control them. 95% of what we do for Maersk Ocean or VSA partners. So which is different from the APMT gateways. So we can kind of control and decide on, how we operate. So as Johan says, when shuttle comes in, we operate them just as they were mainliners.
We can also call up a map to see how they are.
Yeah, so it's pretty obvious from this map here that that's at least you can say when you don't go south the Cape, then they are all on that pearl on a string that I'm talking about. So deviations are not big, but the thing is, back into what I mentioned before about the what's important for a terminal, particularly a hub terminal, that is the predictability and the reliability on which the ships come. So we have now, together with Ocean, in the hubs planned what is the exact, berthing sequence that we want. So is it a shuttle from Shenzhen in North China, or is it a mainliner that goes to Bremerhaven? We now know exactly when they will come during the week, and because of those less delays that Johan are talking about, we can make the plans. Because let's face it, in the past, a lot what we've had is that we had a plan and an expectation for the week that this ship will come here, that will come there. Here is a connection, so you move the containers to stand in the right place. But if that ship that was supposed to be the on-carrier comes at a different point in time, then all of a sudden your whole plan around the terminal, goes wrong, and you have to replan all the time. And then we're back to that vicious circles that I spoke about. So the fact that they're located, the fact that we consider a shuttle and a mainliner essentially on the same terms, and we have the right berthing sequence, that will allow us to do that efficient transshipment operation.
And apart from the close alignment with Maersk, how have you prepared these hubs to be able to handle the capacity?
I mean, we have invested quite a lot, and this is why I said we've been working on this for quite a number of years. So together with partners, we have maybe invested more than $3 billion in expanding the capacity. That's one thing. We've done a lot around that cooperation between Ocean and APMT to get a smoother operation through the terminal. So I'm happy to say that when we look at the last half of last year, compared to our efficiency in terms of how fast did we actually handle a vessel in a hub of the different port call size and vessel type and so on, we're basically twice as fast as we were in 2016. That has enabled what we do. We work together then on systems, creating visibility and so on across the two functions. That will allow us to do what we need to do.
And I don't know if you can supplement each other here, but can you explain a little bit more about how hubs are used for the transshipments with mainliner overlaps and so on?
Maybe I'll start, and you can add. I mean, essentially, a hub is where all the loops they meet. So when Johan talks about Tanjung Pelepas, then the loops from North China, the loops from East China, the loops from Australia, everything hits there, and then it's basically, you can say, an ability to cover the entire world. So we can cover anywhere in the world when the bugs get to Tanjung Pelepas. And we can then, you can say, we can make the planning early. It's a little bit like, say a cross-dock operation if we talk in logistic terms. We don't want the hub terminals to be a storage location. We want the boxes in, and then as fast as possible, we need them to get out again. And in theory, a container touches the ground for 30 minutes. It can actually be on the way to be loaded on another vessel. It's not all the boxes that does that, because that would be sort of the extreme, but that's what we now have created the systems and the, visibility to be able to do.
I think maybe just to build on the reference to logistics, this network is actually quite similar to the network you have in express parcels or in last mile fulfillment networks, where your distribution center is basically where you get an access to connect everything and plan from there. It's also the place where, if in case there is a delay, then you basically use that to resolve, or if the disruption and the customer needs the cargo in a different place than they originally thought, that's your opportunity to basically respond to the changing situation the customers. And we have seen that in other industries being super responsive, super robust, and this is what we are mirroring here.
But if I heard one point of criticism throughout the year since you introduced a new network, it is that increased transshipments that will come with the risk of delays and slower transit times. What's your response to that?
We are aware that some would say that. I think maybe let me start with what I hear from customers first and foremost. It's about getting their cargo to arrive at the agreed time. That's what they really care about. And then there has been some discussion around whether transshipment is more likely or less likely to get the cargo there to arrive on time. And in some cases, some customers have had the experience that it's been less likely if you go to a transshipment. I think when I look at what is the issue, and again coming back to what I said with the difference on the network before, is that it's basically not the transshipment that is causing the delay, it's the fact that the ships are late. And when you then look at two ships that are late in the transshipment point, of course, it looks like the transshipment is not working, but actually it's the ships that are late, which is the root cause of the problem. And that basically that brings me to the point that when we look at how we're more likely to get the customer's cargo to arrive on time, we need to do away with some of the conventional logic here, because otherwise we will keep seeing the same reliability outcomes that we have been for the last 10 years. We need to look at how do we basically make sure that the ships arrive on time into the hub, and then execute the processes that Mikael is talking about, which will create the seamless connection.
Yeah, Lars, Mikael?
If I may just add, so what we have started to do and what we've realized here is that we need to look at the hubs as an integral part of the ocean network. So I've worked many years in ocean and created networks and so on, and moved to APM terminals some years back. And we've used that, I'm going to say, connection to really think the hubs into being a part of the network. It's almost like a ship. It just doesn't move anywhere. And that's the possibility where you have to connect things. And then we're creating these integrated processes between the two, creating visibility. So when a ship leaves Pelepas, and next stop is Tangiers in Morocco, that also happens to be a hub, half an hour after the ship has left Pelepas, we are now starting to plan the operation in Tangiers 4 weeks out. So we're thinking them in together as part of the same, and we have some shared objectives between my teams in the hubs and what we need to deliver for ocean.
Yeah, that's one thing, and I wanted you to dive a little bit deeper into that. What have you prepared to make this stress testing? What makes you so confident that, okay, we can actually foresee some of these events, and we can plan into the future how many cranes to use, how many employees do we need to use at the terminals? Can you explain a little bit more about that?
I mean, we've done a lot in obviously in the preparation for this here. But number one, I'd say over the years, as I mentioned, we have worked together with Ocean, and we pretty much doubled the efficiency on how fast we can get the ships through, because the number of moves per hour. That is one thing. We've created systems now so that we have that visibility. We can see how much cargo is coming from Ocean. Ocean can see how much is the capacity in the hubs. And I'm talking about the hubs here because they are basically 100% for Maersk Line. Gateway is different, but still it's a different operation. And then we've also done, I'm going to say, testing of these, what I say, tight connections, that we can actually get boxes in fairly late, and then we can still make them connect the vessel. We've created a weekly, daily operating system between our respective teams in order to carry it through.
I heard the worry from some of these ports that will no longer receive direct mainliner calls, as they say, that there's a worry that it would mean less capacity or less volumes coming into a certain port. What's your opinion on that worry, or how can you address that worry from some terminals who will no longer receive these mainliner calls?
Yeah, so I mean, the easiest way to address it is to show that this will not mean less capacity, and this will not mean less volume going through for us. So the main, what we're addressing with the shuttles is that in many cases in our current network, when a ship goes to the end of the rotation, so North China or into Gdansk in Poland as two examples, they are not utilized in full, right? Because that's sort of the end of it, and they fill up as they move down towards the end of the rotation. So what we're doing basically is that we are right-sizing the shuttles to meet the demand of that location, rather than sailing a very large ship in there half full in both ways, which is inefficient and also from an emissions perspective is not ideal.
One word that many will connect, and we did talk a little bit about this topic before, but one buzzword that you will hear every time you mention the Gemini is the reliability and the ambition. Can you say a little bit more about what that ambition means to you, and when is it going to be phased in, and also the measurements you use actually to explain what should we look for?
Yeah, I mean, the ambition means a lot to us because we have been leaning out with an ambition level, which we think is exciting for our customers, and also, frankly, a level that they should expect from us as service operators. It's also exciting because it's not just a marginal improvement from where we are today. It's a step change we need to do to make it happen, and we're very aware of that. We're aware that we need to prove this eventually. So that's what it means to us, and I can tell you that every process that we are looking at, whether it's on the ship side or on the terminal side, is right now being lined up to match that ambition level.
And when is it above 90%?
Yeah, so the first ships will sail on Gemini in the beginning of February. So we are super close to the beginning of this. What's important for me to explain is that a ship will complete its rotation in the old network before it will phase into Gemini. That simply put means that the ships that are leaving Asia today are still leaving in the 2M network. They will have to complete the whole rotation throughout, and then when they come back, then they will phase into Gemini. So what that means is that we are basically into May, because that's how long the rotations are, before the last ship will phase into Gemini, and we have a full view on this in June. Now we will not know nothing before June, but the full ambition level for the full network will be possible when it's phased in June.
Thank you. And as you said, the 1st of February, it's only a few days away. What will actually happen on launch day itself?
Yeah, on launch day, that's basically the cutover for us, and that's what all the phase in, phase out have been planned on. And that means that I believe it's on Saturday, the first ship will leave in the Gemini rotation. So that's what happens. And then, as I mentioned before, it's not a 1 day shift of the network. It's a rotation led shift, which we have done before. So it's a question I sometimes get also in terms of what does this mean for customers and so on. And what has been important for us is that we have been out a year knowing this, which means that we've had a year to plan it and prepare ourselves and our customers for it. So all the customers know exactly which ships is shifting over and are planning the bookings together with us on this. So it's a big process, but one that has been managed very very detailed.
And Lars, Mikael, what will happen in the hubs from Saturday?
We'll still be moving boxes off ships and onto ships, and you can say that the big thing from a terminal perspective is that reliability, and predictability, I should say, that we get from ocean. That will obviously change, and a lot of focus will be on planning based on that higher, predictability. So we have revised our maintenance and repair plans because we believe that we'll be much better to predict, okay, on a Thursday in this given week, you can actually take a crane down and do some overhauls on it rather than having to scramble on a day-to-day basis. But it's not that it's just now it's the 1st of February and then the world changes like that. I mean, we've been practicing, we've been working on this, and I'm happy and proud of the teams actually that we came through the first half of this year with all our hubs where things got massively disrupted because ocean liners, all of them started to go south of Cape rather than via Red Sea, and that made a total disruption to a lot of container flows. But none of our terminals actually came to that situation where we had 3 or 4 days waiting time in order to get alongside. And that was because of that, that collaboration, that close integration between the ocean execution team and then the hub terminals on when do we get a ship, how can we do, how many moves. So we've never gotten to the point where all of a sudden lots of boxes were just dumped at a terminal that brought it to a standstill. And that is a difference because it's not always been like that. And that gives me, a fair amount of confidence that when we then get going with Gemini, get the higher predictability, that we can do this day in and day out at a fast speed and then with the connections that we need to deliver to our customer being Maersk Ocean.
Well, thank you both for the introduction to the setup.